Hi, this is Irv with the Dr. Vax channel. I've been absent from the Dr. Vax channel for almost 7 weeks. And the reason is I was doing a little bit of traveling, but then I came down with the coronavirus. I spent 8 days on a ventilator, and it gave me a lot of time to think about my experience and about the Dr. Vax channel and where I'd like to take it in 2020. So stay tuned and let's learn together about my experience with Corona and the direction I'm going to take the Dr. Vax channel for my loyal subscribers in 2020. Initially by design, then as a result of spending a week at home with the virus and about 3 weeks in the hospital, I lost somewhere between 20 and 25 pounds. And as long as I'm slimming down, I thought I'd also take an opportunity to look at the technology I've used for the Dr. Vax channel and see if I can slim that down. For most of the year, most of the videos I shot, not all of them, but most of them were on a Panasonic Lumix GH4. I don't know, this is a 4 or 5-year-old camera. It's a really good camera with one limitation, and the limitation is the autofocus is not fantastic if you're not standing behind the camera where you can tap on the point you want it to focus. So what I often do is I'll put something in place of where I'm going to sit, a mannequin head or something like that. Looks a little goofy. I'll focus on that, I'll lock the focus, I'll take the video. The result is the video quality is good, but not spectacular because it ends up a little bit soft. For audio, I've been using a Rhodes microphone that's suspended above my height, and I love the quality of this audio. But these are heavy to move around. It limits my ability to film when I'm not at home. So I'm going to try an experiment today. This video is being filmed on an iPhone 11 Pro. The video looks like it's going to be very good. It's going to be filmed at 1080p. So I'm not filming at 4K where the file sizes get very, very large, but I still needed an external microphone and I don't have the right adapter to use this microphone. So I do have a Rhodes lav mic, and that's what's plugged into my phone. Now I find it's a little bit boomier. It's not quite as nice as this suspended mic, but we'll see how this comes out. Okay, now, what was my experience with Corona? Well, in the beginning of March, I started coming down with a slight fever, about 100.3. I didn't really think much of it until it lasted 4 or 5 days. I called my internist, my physician. He's really good. He's fantastic. But what he said is my fever wasn't high enough, at least in the state I'm in, for me to get a test. It has to be over a particular number. And so he's going to treat this as if it might be Corona, or it might just be the flu, or it might be something else. So he continued to treat me with Tylenol, fluids, checking my temperature every day. Well, because I'm a bit of a geek, in the beginning of January, when I heard about Corona, maybe I'm more than a bit of a geek. When I heard about Corona, I went out and I bought a pulse oximeter. It's one of these little meters that you place on your finger, and it tells you your oxygen saturation rate and also your pulse. Well, in the beginning, my oxygen saturation rate is fine. Generally, they want it at 95 or higher. When it starts getting close to 90, people get concerned. I was monitoring it during the week. As I approached the weekend, it began to drop. And by Sunday morning, it was in the 80s. I called my internist. He called me right back. He said, "You need to get to an emergency room." So I went to the hospital. They admitted me. They gave me a Corona test. They put me on oxygen. My oxygen levels came up. But then when they saw I was positive for Corona, long story made short, I was put on a ventilator. And I stayed on that ventilator for 8 days. Now, I'm a really lucky guy because I ended up at a world-class teaching hospital, one of the finest in America. And instead of putting me on a ventilator and sort of keeping my oxygen level stable, but letting my body heal myself, I had a team of physicians, a pulmonologist, a cardiologist, infectious disease physician that were looking at the best strategy for me every morning. And because a number of my friends work at this hospital, they were checking the notes, talking with the docs, calling my wife, and explaining to her what was going on. And this was all much more stressful for her than for me. I have no memory of the 8 days I was on a ventilator. Either way, when I hear from my friends, I did not make it easy for them. There were ups and downs. As part of the course of treatment, they not only had to have me sedated, but about halfway through my treatment, they had to put me on paralytic drugs to eliminate any other movement so my body could do the best at concentrating on healing myself. And then my immune system went into overdrive, which caused other problems, and they did give me a medication to reduce the inflammation to allow my lungs to begin to heal. And 8 days later, I woke up in the intensive care unit. The nurses in the intensive care unit were spectacular. When I first woke up, all of the drugs they'd given me hadn't worn off yet. I could barely move. I almost had locked-in body syndrome. There's a big red button on the side of the bed rail. That's a call button. I thought I ought to see if I could press that. I could barely reach my finger, and I had trouble aligning it with the button, and I definitely would not have been able to press it. They explained to me what was going on. By the next day, it was a little better. The next day, I was quite a bit better, but so weak, I couldn't turn myself in my bed. Now, I was very, very lucky because one of the first nurses I had was actually a male nurse, a guy that might have been about 5'6", not a very big guy. I couldn't see him clearly because he had a big mask on, he had goggles on, he was all draped in protective gear, but I'll refer to him as Spider-Man because he was one of the strongest sort of not real big guys that I've ever seen. Those first couple days when I was basically paralyzed, he could roll me over, he could move me around, he asked me if I was comfortable, he gave me more pillows. He did some very technically complex things. He took out a central line, an IV that was in my neck. He put another one in my arm. This was very cool. He used an ultrasound. And he showed me what he was doing. He could actually see the vein, so he could get the needle into exactly the right place the first time. No poking and trying. This was magical. So Spider-Man was spectacular, and he worked really hard to get me to get on the phone on FaceTime and talk to my wife to assure her I was fine. Actually, the first day I could barely mumble, so I sort of put him off for a little bit. Spectacular. Every other nurse I had at this hospital was equally talented and equally kind. And that combination of skills and kindness, what a wonderful thing that was. Now, I learned some interesting statistics from my friends after I was released from the hospital. I spent about 5 days in the ICU, then about 4-5 more days in a regular room, getting my strength back, learning to move again so I could go home. I had to be off oxygen, and to go home instead of to a rehab center, I had to be able to get out of bed on my own. I had to be able to walk at least with a cane or a walker to the bathroom, wherever I needed to go. And I was able to manage that. But what he told me afterwards, and I've seen even worse statistics now, was that across the United States, anywhere from 20 to 25% of people put on ventilators weren't making it. They were dying. At the hospital I was at, it was 2%. There was just an article posted online from one of the major newspapers. I apologize, I forgot exactly which one, where in some hospitals in New York City, where these hospitals are overwhelmed, they're understaffed, maybe they don't have all of the latest equipment, over 80% of the people on ventilators are dying. So I consider myself a very lucky guy. But it's also an interesting observation about healthcare in America. The patient in Queens or in the Bronx had access to a hospital. They didn't say you can't come here if you don't have an insurance card. He had access to a hospital. I had access to a hospital. But the quality of the care, for many very complex reasons, was not the same. My care was being fine-tuned by a team of physicians every day. You hear stories of people in New York hoping to see an attending once a week. So There are challenges in healthcare in America. It's well above my pay grade as to what the right solution is, and this is not a political discussion. Just an observation that the hospital you go to does matter. So where does that lead me now? Well, I've been home for about 3 weeks or so. My strength is pretty much back. My fine motor skill is, I'd say, 80% back. My large motor skills are probably 90% back. My balance is really good. But boy, I've lost a lot of endurance. I've been told that it's going to take months, literally months, for my lung capacity to come back. Right now, if I walk really fast or I sort of run up a flight of stairs, it's as if I just ran a mile. My heart rate zooms, I get short of breath, and another friend of mine who's a pulmonologist has said to me, you can't muscle your way through this, Irv. You can't, if you over-exercise, it will do no good. So you're just going to have to allow time to allow your lungs to recover, to regenerate new cells, because they were badly beat up. So what do? Well, I do ride an exercise cycle. It's sort of a Peloton clone that's half the price here at home that I really like. And I ride it for about 15 to 20 minutes a day. My internist wants me to keep my heart rate below 120. Well, a year ago, to get to 120 on that bike, I had to work a little bit. And I tried to keep my heart rate around 130, 135, which was really working hard. Now, barely moving, my heart rate soars to 120 and I have to back it off. So that will improve with time. I take walks with my wife. We are in a state that's a shelter-at-home state. So when I take a walk, I have to wear a mask. We leave many feet, 10, 20 feet between us and anyone else. We walk around the block a couple times. So getting better every day. And I expect that in the next few weeks, I will return to a more regular video schedule. Okay, that takes us to Dr. Vax. 2019 was a remarkable year. Over a period of about 15, 16 months, December of 2018 through now, I gained over 11,000 subscribers for a channel that's all about my love of making things. Now, the channel ended up very focused on 3D printing because those videos seemed to do the best. And I attempted to publish really almost twice, sometimes 3 times a week. So what happened is Dr. Vax had started as an avocation, a serious hobby, because I basically retired from the corporate world about a year ago. In just a month or so, I'll be 65, signing up for Medicare, and officially retired. But I'm not looking to retire from life. I'm looking to retire from the corporate world. So I want to keep learning things, making things, and teaching other people about it. So that's where the Dr. Vax channel is going to go. I'm going to broaden, probably half or maybe a little bit less of my content will still be around 3D printing because people are interested in that. But I'm going to have a lot more content about other skills you need as a maker to create interesting things. Now, those of us that are DIY folks, do-it-yourself folks, maker is the current term for DIYers using more advanced technology, really. We don't necessarily make things because we save money or time. We make things often because of the joy of creating things, of doing it yourself with your own hands, with your own intellect. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep teaching you about these things. I am going to back off on the number of videos. I think you'll see about 2 to 4 videos a month. Some months it'll be a little more, some months it'll be a little less. Some videos will be longer, some will be shorter. But I'm going to keep refreshing new content to the over 100 videos I already have on the channel. But it's going to be a little more balanced. So I'm going to challenge each of you. If you initially came to the channel to learn just about 3D printing, recognize that if you learn a little electronics, maybe a little woodworking, maybe how to work with metals or glass or fabric or other materials, how to combine those things together, you can make more and more interesting things. You can do this by yourself, Or you can do this with a child or a grandchild or a student in your class, because boy, when you make things with a child, you create memories that last forever. So Dr. Vax, who has been on pause for about 7 weeks, I wasn't even responding to comments. I do apologize. There were times I was just too weak. Is coming back, and I'm going to be coming back strong with a broader array of material so we can all continue to learn things together. And if you enjoy doing that, please subscribe to the channel. Please give me a thumbs up. Recommend the channel to other folks. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.